Today we have with us Jason Friedman, a serial entrepreneur. And I'm telling you what, if you had a JV basketball team and you could get Michael Jordan to come and coach for a day, that is the role that you have here with Jason Friedman. If you have ever thought of being an entrepreneur, starting a business, you have got to listen to today's interview. Our guest is just amazing, such a wonderful person. Jason, so good to have you here on the show today.
Excited to be with you.
When we started out, it was just about providing for our families while being in the driver's seat of our careers. I started in the mattress industry in 1999, and when I left the corporate world and Joe and I opened the Big Mattress outlet in 2012, we could never have dreamed how rewarding business ownership would be for us.
My only regret is that we didn't do this sooner. I was terrified to make that jump, to leave the comfort of the corporate environment. As the old saying goes, I can promise you, parachute's never going to open if you first don't jump.
We've built a proven business model that's unique in the industry. It's profitable year after year, even through fluctuating markets and economies. We want to work with like-minded entrepreneurs who, like us, don't mind a little hard work, but want to own something that goes beyond just providing for our families financially. It offers exponential growth and profit opportunity, not to mention just a great culture and a really fun industry.
If you think you might be a fit, we'd love to talk to you.
Hi guys, I have one of my favorite people in the whole wide world here today, Jason Friedman. I'm so excited and so thankful. Jason, thank you for saying yes and being here today.
100%, Kelly. I'm so happy to be here with you. You are one of my favorite people as well. And been looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, same here. And so, Jason, you have so much background to talk about, and there's so much that we couldn't possibly cover it all in one podcast. But you're a former theater enthusiast. You're now a serial entrepreneur. You're dedicated to helping small businesses and entrepreneurs to grow, scale their business. You have a very successful program doing that. You've got a flair for the dramatics. You're a master of storytelling. You have built and exited successfully more businesses than most of us will probably have the opportunity to be a part of. So really value your input. And I think those listening are going to really appreciate hearing your story and some of what you have to say. So let's just start right off, because I know everybody kind of wants to know who you are and what your background is. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my pleasure. I've got a weird background. And you know some of this, obviously, because we spent a lot of time together. But, I think I learned almost all the cool things I know early on, starting in the world of theater, right? So you mentioned this kind of like theater enthusiast. Like when I was 8 years old, I was going to this summer camp, and my best friend in the world wanted to be in the camp play. And he was afraid to go audition by himself. And so like I was his buddy. He like took me along for the journey. And I was just sitting there giving him moral support. And while I was sitting there in this playhouse, right, in the little tiny makeshift theater, there was a guy in the back who looked just like Wolfman Jack, if you remember Wolfman Jack.
I do. Yep.
His name was Mark. And he was like building some sets. Like he was like building the flats that like you paint and put the scenery on. And every so often he'd run over to the lighting board and change the lights, or he'd adjust a microphone. And I was fascinated by what this guy was doing. And so Billy was on stage singing Happy Birthday. He got accepted into the show, and I joined the stage crew. And so starting at 8, like every single summer, and then once I was in school and high school and beyond, I did shows. I did the sets, the lights, the sound, all the AV. I was the AV kid in school that helped with the film strips and all that kind of stuff. And when then I started doing more legit theater. And when I got on the road, I was a rock and roll roadie. So I traveled with Rush, with Peter Gabriel, with Fleetwood Mac and others.
Wow.
And then I did more legit Broadway shows with Fiddler on the Roof, Jesus Christ Superstar, Man of La Mancha. And like learning how stories are told, learning how to captivate an audience, learning how like the same exact audience night after night would come to the show, and the same exact show night after night with a different audience that would be there. And they would laugh in the same place. They'd cry in the same place. They'd applaud the same place. And you started to realize, you know what? there's a formula to all of this and how it works. And so my whole life, all the business I've created, I've started, have really had some level of theatricality and kind of the show business operating model in them. But my very first business was when I was like 10 years old, and I live in the Northeast, as you know, and we get snow. And so I started a snow shoveling business, right? And so I would go out and knock on doors, and I would offer to shovel their driveway and their walk for, a certain amount of money, $10, $20, whatever it was. And I got busy. And like after the first snowstorm, I had gotten like 3 houses done. I was exhausted, and there was a lot of other houses that I could have done, but I couldn't do it. So I started enlisting my friends. And so I started to hire staff to help me do this. Yeah, like literally. And so then like we would go out as an armada of people. We had like 5 kids with us, and we'd like shovel quickly. We'd go to the next house and go to the next house. And so the next time we did it, we got like 8 driveways or 9 driveways done. And then from there, I was like, you know what? Like if I can keep them going, I can just go ahead and sell the next one, then go back, collect the money, walk the site with them, then go to the next one. And so I started becoming like the salesman and the financial director, like collecting the money, and they were going around doing all the shoveling. And we bought a snowblower at some point. We started doing them that way, and it became this like little business right then and there. And after that, I was hooked. And so I've done a variety of different businesses, from selling lofts in my college dorm to, all sorts of small lemonade stand kind of things in my youth. And then I started my first big company when I was right out of college after the theater touring. And ultimately, that business grew. We did over 150 million in sales. We had over 1,500 team members around the globe. We ended up with offices across the globe. And I exited that business for quite a tidy sum a long time ago. And it was amazing. And then during that, I started 4 or 5 other businesses. So that big business was helping big brands with their client experience, we talked about brand theater. How do we have your brand come to life in the hearts and minds of your customers? And that scaled. We had a software company. We had a couple spirits brands. We had a chain of sleep diagnostic centers, motorsports shop where we built race cars and roll cages, which I know is near and dear to your and Joe's hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had a teen driving school that did amazing stuff. So we've had a lot of businesses over the years, and there's a through line in every single one of them about how we handle our customers, how we support them, how we help them get the results that they most want. And so once I got that bug of like doing your own thing, working for yourself, I never looked back.
That is so awesome. I absolutely love that story. And I'm going to go back because I've been around you enough now to know that you clearly have just a mind for business. Like it's not even industry specific anymore. You can just kind of put yourself in any industry and develop a strategy for how to make it successful. It's a very unique and awesome talent that you have. But going back to when you were 10 years old and you started the snow shoveling business, at what point did you actually realize, in the mind of a 10-year-old, at what point did you realize I have a business here? Was there a point kind of early on in the journey where you realized you had a little bit of a gift? Or a lot of a gift? There's no little bit. You had a lot of gift.
No, I never realized I have a gift. Like even right now, I'm not sure that I would call it I'm gifted. A little crazy maybe, but when I realized that I had a business was when I hired the first employee.
Okay.
And I remember thinking to myself, wow, like I'm official now, right?
At that age or early on, did you have someone kind of guiding you and giving you advice, or did you just kind of be like, hey, this would be a good idea. Let's see how this works.
I don't think I had specific like mentorship or guidance in that way, but my father was entrepreneurial, right? So I think there's a difference between an entrepreneur and someone that's entrepreneurial. And so to me, the difference, like an entrepreneur is the one that like just takes the leap and goes all in and doesn't need that kind of security and is willing to take some risks and so on and so forth. And that's just one type, right? And then there's the entrepreneurial person that's like in a lot of companies, there's like intrapreneurs, like, or, people that are like, they're your business partners. So they're entrepreneurial, but they don't have the stomach to kind of go off on their own and do it. And so my dad was the entrepreneurial one. So he always had a business partner and who was the entrepreneur, and they built some very successful businesses together. And my grandfather was an entrepreneur who happened to be in the accounting business. And I had uncles and I had other people in my life that were entrepreneurs or entrepreneurial. And I think that inspired in some way for sure. But ultimately it was about, to me, it was about, part of it was vision. Like you have an idea and you want to do something with it. Like I believe that, I've told you this before, action trumps inaction all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm an action taker. Like
Yep.
I do stuff and I don't overthink things a lot of the time. Sometimes my dad used to say, think before you speak. I'd be like over here speaking and I wasn't done thinking, you know what I mean? And so I'm an action taker. And so like at that time, I also look for problems and I like to solve problems. Like I just enjoy solving problems. And I think that's part of why I can go into different businesses, different industries, and analyze things quickly. And so I see opportunities more than problems, right? I mean, most of us call it problems, but I see it as opportunities. And with the snow shoveling, it was an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I saw a way to make some money, do something productive. And I just started doing it. Like I just went out, I knocked on the door and said, let me see. And like, do you want me to shovel your driveway? And they were like, how much? And I
because I don't want to do
number. I just picked a number, $10.
Yeah.
And then it was like an awful lot of time and an awful lot of work. And I didn't get more than $10. I was like, that was too low. Let me charge a little more.
Yeah.
And
that didn't feel right. That didn't feel right at the right price.
Yeah. You just kind of like mess around. Like, and then when you get a no, right, then you realize, okay, I'm maxed out. I can't go any higher. Like they're like, nope, no, I don't want to pay you that, And so, I think, the inspiration from seeing other people do it, but more than that, I think it was just like, I think entrepreneurs, like you and me, like we see opportunities, we see problems that we know how to solve and see that we can turn that into something that's helping people. Right. We can do good and do well at the same time.
Because every item out there that's sold or service fills a need. So that exists. And so you see that opportunity. And you touched on something a second ago. I'd actually like to talk about it for a minute because you talked about the difference between entrepreneurship and being entrepreneurial versus being an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And let's linger on that because I think we probably, have a lot of folks who are going to listen who are entrepreneurial and would like to take that jump. They have a mindset. Maybe they've got a gift or they're in a field that they know something about and they've got that feeling that they could be successful, but they haven't made the leap yet. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of transition from that mindset into giving yourself enough credit to be successful?
Wow. This is going to be a good, juicy topic to unpack for sure. So I have a million thoughts colliding in my brain at the same time right now. So I'm going to answer part of your question, then we'll answer the other part. So I think, for example, like coming up with your own business idea and building all the systems and the marketing and the processes, that is hard to do for some people. Other people, it's like, boom, I can just do that, right? And so it's just, we're all wired differently. We have different unique abilities, right? We have different zones of genius and superpowers. And so for some of us, like figuring out all the systems and the processes and naming things and building all that out, it's in our zone of genius. And then for others, it's like taking that and making it their own and expanding it and growing it and whatever, that's in their zone of genius, right? Like a lot of the businesses that were created that are even massive corporations today, the person who started it and then the person who scaled it and ran it were different people, right? It's that's like different jobs, it's different skill sets. And so like for people that are like maybe sometimes afraid to take the leap, like one option is find a franchise, find an opportunity where some of the systems and the processes and the methodologies are tried, true, and tested. And there's people that can train you into that. And then you can take the reins and make it even better and contribute to the system. So like, that's kind of more what my dad did. He had the entrepreneur who built the systems, built the business, and he was the operational person that would, run the system and then find opportunities to improve or enhance or make the system run like clockwork and refine things. And that was his unique ability. And so I think for a lot of people out there, like owning your own business doesn't have to be where you make up your own thing. You can, work within someone else's ecosystem and do something like that. So I just want to touch on that first, right? But then the second part of your question, like, why does that happen? Like, why do people hold out? Why do they, and I think, I've done a presentation that I know you've seen a couple of times in the various places we've been. And I talk about this idea of like these shifts to massive growth.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that we as entrepreneurs or leaders or people or what do we have to do to kind of get to that level of scaling and really growing? And, a lot of people think like, that even people that have big businesses now, they're stagnant, they're stuck at a plateau.
Yep.
Right. And
Relatable.
well, it happens to all of us, right?
Yep.
It happens to all of us, right? I've been through it enough times and made so many mistakes that I've learned the hard way, right? And part of what I do today is help people avoid that hard path, right? But, and I've had a coach for 15 years that like helped me through all that, and mentors and masterminds and other groups that I've been part of, where I've learned and I stand on the shoulders of giants down here, right? Like it's not just all me figuring it out. I've like had massive amounts of training. I've invested heavily in that growth and development. And so in that presentation, what I'm sharing are kind of like my insights of what are the things that have been most, the biggest successful pieces of my journey. What are the biggest shifts that I've had to do in me to become successful in different areas of my life? And one of those shifts is around really understanding that confidence doesn't show up at the beginning of a journey. Confidence comes last, right? And I want to give credit where credit is due. This comes from my coach, Dan Sullivan, of the Strategic Coach, who again was my coach for 14, 15 years of my life and like transformed my life and that of others that I'm now sharing things to also, right? And the ripple effects are real. But what he would say is like, look, there's 4 C's, right? And confidence is that last C. And many of us, entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial people, both equally awesome, right? Just different.
Sure.
We wait for that sign that it's the right time or that I'm now ready. And that doesn't often show up for us, right? That confidence comes as a result of taking the action, and gaining the confidence is gained through the actions that you take. It shows up as a result. It's the effect, not the cause, right? Yeah. And so really
such a powerful statement.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And when I remember when he said that to me, it's like light bulb went off.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh my gosh. And I had taken lots of risks and had lots of confidence in certain ways, but so not in other ways. And I had seen like so many places, Kelly, that I was stuck and that I was waiting for that sign. Like the dumbest things, not dumbest, but like the craziest things, right? Like having a baby. Like we were waiting for when we thought we were going to be ready to be
parents. Stars were aligned. Everything was just right. Okay, now we're ready.
When were we going to be ready? We needed the confidence that we were going to be ready. And then all of a sudden we didn't have a choice anymore. We were pregnant.
Like, well, here we are.
And then like we got to a place where like, you know what? We're actually okay at this. Like nobody's been hurt. Like everybody's doing okay. Like, okay, we got this, right? Yep. And that confidence showed up after that. But I remember like, it's not time yet. We're not ready. Like we have so many things we need to do. We need to learn. I need to read books. I need to go to classes. Like nobody taught me how to do that. Like home economics was how to sew things, not how to raise a baby. Like, I don't know. And that happens. And so it starts with courage, right? We have to have some courage. And I believe that comes from faith. And I don't mean that in a religious or kind of biblical sense. I mean that just in like a pure, like Webster's dictionary sense of like, I have to have some belief that it's possible,
And we're not talking about blind faith, because I'll fill in the gap there, not to interrupt you, but when we talk about faith, it's based on something. Like you have faith in yourself, but it's based on the fact that I know this, this, and this about myself. I know that I have this skill set. I know that I have these unique abilities. And do I know for sure that I can be a successful business owner or not? I haven't been there yet, but I've got some good foundations to know that there's a good chance. And so that faith in myself to carry through the plan, that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
100%. Faith in yourself, faith in like skills that you have, like you said, faith in like, if you're investing in a franchise or you're investing in some other kind of like learning like that the people that you're investing with have something to mentor you and teach you and share with you a value, right? And so like when I went to that business coach, Dan, that I mentioned, like I had faith in him. And the crazy thing about this, and I know you can relate because, I've coached you for a bit. It's like I am able to hold space and lend my confidence to people that I'm working with. right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hold space and lend it for them. And so like we get that off the table. Then it's courage, it's commitment. Like I'm gonna do this. A decision, right? A
So
decision is one of the
powerful.
most important things that can come of that. Then you get the capability. You learn the specific skills. You'll start to
Yep.
amass business acumen. You'll start to understand what like the accounting and the or any of the things that you didn't like inherently know already. You'll start to build those capabilities, or you'll hire those capabilities, or you'll borrow those capabilities, right?
Yep.
And that's where confidence starts to show up. It's after those other 3 C's, right? The courage, the commitment, and then the capability. And then you start to see the light. And all of a sudden it gets more and more exciting. But the other thing, and I know you and I've talked about this before also, is that breakthroughs, right? Those happen
Mhm.
just outside of our comfort zone. They don't happen in our comfort zone. So if we
Right.
want to grow, we want to transform, we want to have this amazing life, right? Like the freedoms, all the things that we want, those breakthroughs, those huge moves, the transformations, it's not where it feels totally safe.
You
It's
got to
when
do
we
some
put
scary
ourselves out
stuff.
there. Yeah.
You
And
got to do
that's
some
even
scary
more
stuff.
fun. Yeah,
And
you
it's
got to
not
do it.
courage. I know it's so fun, but it's not courage if you weren't afraid.
Yeah. Well
I mean,
said.
the courage is a byproduct of overcoming fear, but the fear is there for it to be courage. And like when you said of having a child is a great example, because does any parent ever really think they're ready? I mean, you have this new little human being that you're responsible for their entire life.
Yeah.
Heck, it's scary, but there it is. I mean, you got to figure it out. And yet we raise these beautiful human beings and they become adults. My kids are grown now. I know that yours is not a baby anymore by any means. And so, but you're so proud of what they become, and you look back and you're like, wow, I did it. Like we did
Yeah.
okay. We did
Yeah.
okay with this. And that's kind of what the breakthrough and the success in business is like, is yeah, you start out afraid. Of course you are. And yeah, but here we are. We got grit. We've got determination. We've got a drive. We're going to do this. And then on the other side of that, you look back and like, man, we did all right.
Yeah. Like it's amazing, right? What you've done. And, I think what's so awesome, like just using the kid journey as well, it's like my children have been some of the best teachers in my life.
Right.
Right? Like I've learned everything that I learned patience. I learned
True.
I learned like a whole different kind and level of love and gratitude and pride and leadership and
So true.
coaching and all sorts of stuff that I learned just from my children. Like yesterday, I went with my 14-year-old Josh to the gym, right? And he has been on this journey to like become like a crazy physically fit person and like do football and wrestling and all these different sports. And he's getting like big, like where like he could maybe take me, and he's 14, right? And like it's embarrassing on some levels, right? So I went to the gym with him yesterday, and he became my trainer. Like he's been working with a trainer, and
Wow.
he like showed me how to do things right. And like I'm doing this, he's like, no, like
Aren't those
elbows
awesome
out,
moments?
elbows out. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. He's like, no. I'm like, dude, my arms hurt. He's like, well, we're doing chest, so if your arms hurt, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, oh.
Okay.
But
So I want to pause on that, because the moments that your children start to teach you something, like that's a whole different emotion. Like nothing else compares to that in life, where like you've taught your child all these years, and then suddenly they reach an age where they're actually able, you're not just faking it, they really are able to teach you something. Isn't
it was amazing. I
it's
texted like
amazing?
20 people, like while this was happening, like, oh my God, first of all, he can kick my ass. Second of all, like I couldn't be more proud of who this kid has become and how he's showing up. And like when I couldn't do something right, like he took the time, he had the patience. And then like when I was getting tired, he's like, all right, he's like, let's take it down. He's like, I'm gonna lower the weight and we're gonna do more reps. And I was like, okay. And like he was so kind, and just like it
But
was
now
a
you trust
huge
him
moment.
too. Yeah.
I like there was a huge growth yesterday,
Yeah.
just yesterday, right? Afternoon. And yeah, it's amazing. So like my confidence grew in him as a result of seeing it also. Like it's in every aspect of your life, and
It
like
is.
business is one of those aspects that can give you lots of freedom, lots of amazing things in your life. But that journey that we go on, like that confidence does not show up first. It just doesn't. And so we have to take that leap. We have to find the courage. And it's a lot easier and more fun and better when you do it with an amazing group of people that are there to support
Mhm.
you in some way.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Yeah, I think that's a great analogy because, as our team has grown here at Big Mattress Outlet, that's my company. I love those moments when someone on the team it brings up an idea or something that's a massive breakthrough that improves our business. The burden's not all on me anymore. It's like we have these team members that we've trained, we've worked with for years, and now they can come in and bring their own talents to the table and make the company better. And when I first met you, and I was hearing you talk about the breakthroughs to massive success, that line of courage or of confidence being on the other side, that confidence comes last. And you mentioned a while ago, because this spoke to me so much. At the time you and I met, I would have told you that I was very excited about our business. We just acquired a new location. We were growing. I felt like we were full steam ahead in growth. And hearing you kind of give some coaching on that helped open my eyes that I actually was a little stagnant and I didn't even realize it. And because I love growing a business. I do have that entrepreneurial spirit, and I didn't want to be stagnant. So I'm sitting here thinking all these ideas, how we can expand. So, as you know, we landed on franchising and now we've launched that. But part of the reason for franchising was helping other entrepreneurs, because I love that so much, helping other people own their own business. We've had our business model for many years. We know it's successful. We know are we tweaking it all the time? Sure, because any business has to do that. But we've withstood, ups and downs in the economy. We've gotten through everything. We have our practices honed in. And so now we can cookie cut that, and I can help someone else be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I just want to send that message of it's okay to be a little bit afraid. Like, the confidence comes last. You can borrow. What was it you said? You
Yeah,
can
borrow my
borrow
confidence as
my
your coach,
confidence.
or like your franchisees, the people that are excited about your business, and they should be, incidentally, because it's an amazing model, an amazing business, and you and Joe and your whole team are amazing people to be involved with. I know firsthand, having spent so much time with you guys. But beyond that, it's like the idea that these people can help you, that can understand you, that have walked that path before, and that your mission is to help them be successful.
Yeah.
Right? That's what excites you. And like for
Yeah.
me, coaching people like yourself and others out there, when you have those successes, like the pride I feel, the joy I feel seeing that success, that's why I do it. Right? That's
Yeah.
the whole reason. And so
That's
for
my
you,
why.
it's you get to do good and do well, right? You're part of your probably the largest part of your mission, like you said, is to help other people have those freedoms that you've been able to enjoy and your family's been able to
Sure.
enjoy, and your team. Like, we get to hire people and create jobs. We get to make money and help people have better night's sleep and have better relationships because of, all the things that come out of your business are breathtaking. They're breathtaking. And for you to be able to help other people, enjoy that kind of freedom and feeling good about what they do. It's not just a business, it's a mission. Well,
Yeah.
what better thing is there on the planet to do with your time? It's so fulfilling,
It
right?
is so fulfilling. Yeah. You just can't. I think without exception, the business owners that I've talked to who have launched out on their own, they've taken that leap, almost all say they would have done it sooner. That's their only regret. They just would have done it sooner because they let that little bit of fear hold them back. And, there is an appropriate time for some things, but sometimes our fear holds us back longer than it should. And, they would have done it sooner because the rewards happen, or the rewards are incomparable of growing
Yeah,
a business and seeing it succeed.
it's amazing. And you know what's so funny to me? It's like I know. So like, I know this to be true. I know that as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, there's a lot of people that think it could be the worst job you've ever had, right? You build yourself into this prison where it's like, you have this weight on your shoulders and you have to work so many hours.
Right.
And sure, that's one thing that could happen, right? It could. Or you could learn from people like Kelly, and you could learn from people that have walked the walk before, that know how to have this balance of life and business, and that, you don't necessarily live to work, you work to live. You can do all of it. You can have it all, and there's ways to do that. And so that's what I love about what you're doing. You're giving
Yeah.
people like literally a treasure map with a big red X on it that
Yeah.
they can go towards. And
There you go.
you're,
We've mapped the journey.
yeah, you've mapped that out. You're showing them how to get there. And then, like, you're air traffic control. So like as they're going through and they're flying, like when they're like, okay, no, we got to like turn like heading 180 to the left, like, and all of a sudden like they're back on course. And so like it's such a great model for people that are ready to take the leap or are wanting that level of freedom. I love that. And I think, as an entrepreneur myself, I've owned franchises as well with partners. I've always wanted to do what you do. So like, here's my your what you've done by building a franchise and creating that is amazing to me. Like I've wanted to do that for a really long time because my mission is to help entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial people have more freedom. Those are,
Yep.
my coach asked me a billion years ago, and it's changed over the years, but he said, like, who do you want to serve? Who do you most want to be a hero to? And, I don't think of it as being a hero. I think of it as being a guide, right? My customers are always the hero and such, but it's entrepreneurs, because I really do believe that we as entrepreneurs change the world. We change the world one business at a time, one customer at a time, one sale at a time.
And it's so rewarding.
It is the
And
most
you can
rewarding.
help somebody else to feel what you have felt. I mean, you've built. I mean, you've been taken multiple companies to the top of the Inc. 5000 list. Entrepreneur of the Year awards. I mean, you've experienced a lot of the success that a lot of entrepreneurs dream of, and yet you're still finding your reward in not the monetary success of your business that never hurts, but the reward that you talk about here is helping someone else feel the same thing that you felt. That's your why.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna out you for a second. Is that cool? Can I out you on
I
your
suppose.
podcast?
I don't know. Are we
All
going to
right,
edit this out or keep it?
well, let's see. We'll see if there's a big gap right now. Everyone, that Kelly is an editor. But
Kelly.
yeah. So, but what you said to me earlier is like, you were afraid to ask me to be on your podcast, to be a guest, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, how could that be? Like, this is one of the greatest joys of my life, to be able to be with someone that I've been able to help and support and be part of. And for you to ask me it's truly an honor. That's not lip service. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's what I live for. And so when you said that, like, you were afraid to, I was like, what? Oh my God. Like I couldn't wait for this interview. Like, I couldn't wait to spend time with you.
Oh, that's awesome.
And talk to you, because our conversations have been amazing. And what you've done with the things that we've talked about is amazing. It's so inspiring. And so you inspire me so much. I just don't think you realize how much. So
well, I appreciate that very much. But I'm going to be vulnerable for a moment, because I'll share some of the conversations you've had. I talk a lot about fear holding us back. Have you heard fear in my voice in the last many months that we've talked? Have you at times heard me talk about, I'm just afraid of this or that?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's natural, right? But are we pushing past it? And have we seen successes and big growth in our own business, even though as the owner, I was afraid. My husband, Joe, we were afraid, but you push through it because I got to sit back and say, Kelly, you can do this. Like, you have the ability. You're just not giving yourself enough credit. You know the industry. I've been in the mattress business 25 years. I know the industry. So sure, of course I can push through this. And so that's when the breakthroughs happen. Now we're franchising. A year ago I would have laughed at you, but this is where we're at because, we had the courage and we pushed through, and that's the real message. Yeah. But I want to talk for a sec, because I want to really, really spend a few minutes talking about what the customer service formula. And the reason I want to talk about it is such valuable information that you offer, but how it's even transformed our business, because it's not just about having another mattress store to us now. We've actually kind of transformed our vision into one of helping people, and not just from the aspect of, okay, we're going to get them a better mattress and now they can sleep better. We can provide an experience for them that's memorable. Talk about experience versus customer service and why that's such a dear subject to you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Wow. First of all, what I said earlier, right? Like my journey started when I was young, right? And my business partner and my best friend, Drew, we've been best friends since we're about 5 years old. We grew up together. We've run multiple businesses together. We're still in it together. There was a day that we were driving in my car. It was a 1985 Pontiac Trans Am. We called it Thunder Chicken.
Yep.
Instead of Firebird, Thunder Chicken. We his dad had given us a check that was written to his dad's company for $1 million. Literally, it was a check for $1 million.
Okay.
Now, at 17 years old, for me, I was like, oh my gosh, like we're rich, you know, and the check had nothing to do with us or whatever, but he asked us to take it to the bank and deposit it. And, you know, fade out, fade in, long story, the bank wouldn't let us deposit it. It was a whole thing. We had to go back and forth and phone calls, and it was crazy. And we were just driving down the road, and I was like, why does everybody make it so dang hard to do something? Like, I want to put $1 million in your bank, and you're like being difficult. Like, I
I'm
remember
not trying to
this
cash
day.
it. I just want to give it to you.
Yeah, I literally wanted to deposit in the bank. Like, you can check and see if it's real or not. Like, just take the darn check and put it in the thing. Had the account number, had all the stuff. And and that started a conversation that you and I were having about all these other experiences that were similar. You know, he worked in a CD music store back then. Remember when you used to buy CDs
Oh, yeah.
20 years ago? And everything was hard. And we just kept talking about it. And we were like, you know what? We're going to build a business someday that's called Making It Better. And literally that day kind of changed our lives in a lot of ways, because we always kept saying, like, how can we make it better? How can we make it better? Like when I built the lofts in the college dorm rooms, it was like the dorm room was cramped. We had no room. How can we make it better? Like when I was like every business, right? And our company now, CXFormula, our flagship program, as you know, is called the Kinetic Customer Formula. And it is all about making it better, really, right? It's the same theme in everything that we do. And we know, without a doubt, having worked with thousands of companies, like Fortune 100s to small mom and pops, right? That we all make it hard for our customers to get results. We make it hard for them to transact business with us. We make it hard for them to feel good in a lot of the journey that they're going through. And so we've found that when we are able to make it better for them, when we actually focus on that customer's journey and really like reverse engineer it, like when we really understand what we want them to be thinking and feeling and actually saying at the end of that journey, we can actually make that happen authentically. We can deliver a bunch of steps that they go through that are optimized, that are simplified, that are frictionless, that help them get there. And so we've been doing that for almost, I mean, I hate to say it because it makes me feel really old. We've been doing this for 25 years, a little more. And we've gotten really, really good at it. And it's a formula, as you know, and it starts like when you start applying it, you get consistent results.
You do.
Like everybody starts to tell you that's amazing. And we all want word of mouth. We all want referrals. But what we really want you to get is people who recruit for you, people who actually go out and start selling on your behalf because they were blown away, right? People like to talk about what happens in their day 2 times. If it's really shitty or it's really awesome. In the middle, it doesn't matter.
They don't talk about it then.
They won't talk about it, right? It has to be one of those 2 things. And so why not go for the awesome side? And so we help people really script that out, right? We helped you write a script of what you want your customers to say. And then we go back and we make the journey, the steps, all the key touch points that they go on, actually create that where they feel this compulsion to actually say that. And they do. Right.
Yeah. And it becomes a part of your culture. That's the great thing is when you can bring it back to your team, and you know, it doesn't happen overnight. We talk about the ideas in a few hours and we kind of learn, but bringing it back and implementing it and getting everybody else on board takes a little bit of time. And so we're a few months into this journey. You know, we went through this Kinetic Customer Service Formula with you last June, maybe several months ago.
June.
And so we came back and we implemented it, and, you know, we've been seeing it now with our staff that they live it. You know, it's not just us talking and staying after them. We've even got in our little company group chats, we've got these stories like, okay, I had this such and such customer. What is something I can do for this one? Because maybe I've got a block, but it's a part of the culture now. They don't need us telling them and going behind them on how to create this. Now they know it.
Amen.
You know? And you don't talk about the, you know, at the end of your day, you don't talk about the stuff that happened in the middle. You talk about the really good and the really bad. You know, I was thinking, I just read a book, Unreasonable Hospitality. And so we're trying to apply some of that unreasonableness in our customer service. Well, the opposite of unreasonable is reasonable, which is a perfectly fine way to do business. There's nothing wrong with reasonable. But, you know, in part of what you teach is going above and beyond and creating an experience, which comes from your theatrical background, right? Because people buy experiences. They don't buy products.
Yep.
Yeah, you create a
Absolutely.
feeling.
Well, and it's the only way to differentiate yourselves. Like everyone else is slinging away rectangles, you're creating an
Yep.
experience, right? And so that differentiates you. It's your fingerprint, right? And we talked about unreasonable, right? I ask everybody, I teach this concept as well. And the question that I ask them is like, what can I do that would be unreasonably awesome for my customers? What can I do that would be unreasonably awesome for my employees? Right? It's both inside and outside, right? It's next level thinking.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to cost even one penny, right?
That's
It
right.
doesn't have to cost you anything. It's the thinking that's powerful. And like you said,
It's the
what I love
mindset.
is it's an operating system for your business,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it becomes part of the DNA. The culture changes. And when you have people that are looking to like really help your customers succeed, and that's who becomes your team, they enjoy their life better. Like I talk about like the difference between customer service and customer experience. What
Mm-hmm.
happens, like what would happen in your company if all the customer service phone calls were people calling in to say thank you? Like what would happen?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
unreasonable.
that's unreasonable. Yeah.
That's unreasonable, but think about it. And so like what would have to be true for that to happen? And then all of a sudden you start to come up with ways to actually make that happen. And it doesn't have to be, again, money. We talked about
It's not
lots of
about how
great
much.
stuff about your business, right?
Yeah.
And I believe like with some people that I've talked to in the mattress business, as you know, I've gone deep with the mattress world. It's like there was a client. I don't. This might have been you. I don't know who it was actually. I don't want to misquote, but they were talking about like at the time of delivery,
Mm-hmm.
like one of the things that was frustrating for their delivery team was that they had to wait for the homeowner to vacuum under the bed after they moved the
Yep.
bed out to put the new mattress.
Yep.
And so it's like, why aren't we bringing in a vacuum and vacuuming under the bed?
Yeah, I think that may have been, we were talked about it in a group setting, but I think
I
the implementation might have been Sleep USA, the North
think
Carolina place.
actually, I don't want to out them per se, but I think it was Orange County Mattress actually.
Okay.
And so, but regardless, like all of a sudden it was like they were losing, they were limiting the number of deliveries they could do in a day because their crew was waiting. Now, what
Right.
if you could speed that up and make it more efficient where they can get in and out
It's a double
faster?
win. Yeah. And then what's the
And
customer think?
the customer's blown away by it.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And so they started doing it. And like all of a sudden they're getting like these rave reviews and thank yous and whatever. And it was like such a little thing, like a cordless, like, vacuum cleaner to come
Yeah.
in the house. And, I know I've shared stories about different ways that we've done something with vacuum cleaners as well. Like it's the littlest things, right? It's the thinking and the
The
thoughtfulness.
thinking.
And so ask yourselves that question, like in your business, it's one of the most amazing questions that I could give you is what could I do that would be unreasonably amazing for my customers and for my employees, and just brainstorm on that.
Yeah.
Right. And don't do all of them. Don't do too much because we don't want to overwhelm. We don't want to overdo it. We want to pick key things that are so impactful that they will talk about them in a positive way and feel the gratitude towards you that they want to go out and start recruiting people and telling them about your business because it was so impactful.
Yeah, and we've been really trying to implement that, again, part of our culture. And just to give a couple of quick examples so that we can kind of illustrate exactly what we're talking about here. We had a sweet customer several days ago. Her and her husband had shopped here before, and she came in needing a new pillow because the old one had gotten dirty. And then come to find out through conversation that her husband had passed away days prior to her being here. And the circumstances is why she needed a new pillow. So obviously that's a heart-wrenching story, and you just have no words for a customer like that. I mean, it's like, what are you going to say that's going to take her pain away? But she felt like talking, and so she did talk for some time. She said, well, I'm getting my first tattoo this week. And because one of us had a tattoo on the sales floor. And so she's like, oh, I like your tattoo. I'm getting my first one this week. Oh, what are you going to get? She says, I'm going to get a quote. Just for today, I will not be afraid. Then she proceeded to tell us this long story of the meaning of that quote between her and her recent husband. And so she wanted to tattoo that on her arm. So now all of our communications with her, ever since her purchase, right up to time of delivery, we added a signature line, just for today, do not be afraid. Because she was expressing a lot of fears of being on her own for the first time. And so that's, that may be an extreme example of a heart-wrenching story, but that cost us nothing. All we had to do was listen to her and think about something that might be meaningful to her.
Like Kelly, you told me a story you shared with me a story and others in the group that we're in together, about right when you went home from our workshop. So you had done the Kinetic Customer Formula workshop. We were together for a few days, and I don't know if you remember what story I'm talking about, but a woman came into your store, and she was struggling with some things. Do you remember the story I'm speaking
Trying
of?
to remember. I remember sharing it, but because we've made a culture, we have so many stories now
Yeah,
that
no,
we're
no,
sharing.
well, and so that, and again, that's the beautiful thing. Like the story bank builds of all these great
Yeah.
stories, and basically, you were talking about how like going through really deeply understanding our customers, like deeply understanding the prototypical customers that we have, so we can better be there for them. Like her mother was in the store with her; she had an issue, and her mother had thanked you for how you handled her daughter in the
Yeah.
store that day,
Yeah. I do
right?
remember that the mother came back and thanked.
Yeah, and like that, what a good day of work, right? You know, it's like you
That's
think
right.
about it.
I do remember the mother came back and thanked because the grown daughter was an adult daughter, and she was being a little snippy in the store, but we took care of her. We met her needs, and because we had this thought that you had, is like, okay, what might she be going through that's making her be this way? And then the mother came back later on her own and said, she's going through this situation in her life that was very difficult. And she kind of opened up and said, just thank you for making this part of the purchase very easy, or making this part of her life easy, because she was overwhelmed by all the things that she was having to deal with at that point because of this tragedy that had struck. She didn't
Yeah,
reveal all that in the store. We didn't know all that.
of
But all
course.
we did, our part in the story or the experience, was just to be a human being and be empathetic. But she doesn't have to tell me what's going on in her personal life for me to treat her as if something might be going on in her personal life, that she needed kid gloves that day.
Absolutely. And it's like, sure, she bought something great, but the thank you made it sweet.
And I don't remember what she bought. What I remember is that she came back and said, thank you.
And I remember it too because you
Yep.
shared that story, and I was so happy, to see that it was happening. And this is the thing, like as we talk about like the experience that we're creating and understanding our customers, like when you, again, this is the theater role that we play, when you can get into character, when you can
Mhm.
understand, like the journey for that customer didn't begin when she stepped in your store.
Right.
Her journey began whenever her journey began. And there's lots of baggage, there's lots of bumps and friction and potholes that she goes over before she comes inside. And so when we can understand our customers, and more importantly, when they can feel understood and cared for and supported, amazing things happen. This woman and her
Right.
mother are telling everybody still, I'm sure, anybody that ever mentions anything mattress, they're like, you got to go talk to Kelly at at her store
Yeah.
because blah 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 blah, right? Like that's what happens, and
That's
and
the goal.
that
Well,
is
when
the
you take care of the person that's in front of you, the human being, you're empathetic, you understand, you really kind of put yourself in their mindset. Like you said, their journey coming in the mattress store didn't start at the first time they walked in the door. It started way before, maybe months before, bad sleep, maybe some tragedy happened. You don't know what any of those things are, but there's something there that led to them walking in your store. So when you're recognize the journey that might have led them there, be empathetic to it, create the experience for them, then they can't help but sing your praises. And then if you just take care of the person that's in front of you, the sales will come. Which obviously we're in business to sell things. That's the reason why we do it. But it's so much more rewarding when you do it in a way that takes care of the people.
absolutely, absolutely. It's beautiful what you guys have done, and that's why I know that anyone that steps up into the franchise relationship with you and becomes part of the family, they're going to be set up for success beyond all of your competition,
It really is a part of the
right?
family, like you said. I mean, we're
It
a
is
little
a family
picky.
there. I know it is. I know
Yeah.
it is. And I also know that there's no better place for them to be because they are going to have support. And like you didn't need to invest in this workshop. You guys were doing good. You were doing well, right? Things were okay. Like you said, like you thought you were doing all the stuff. And then you stepped into that and then you started doing even more. And you're constantly tweaking and improving and refining and expanding and enhancing. And that's what it's about. And those marks that we leave in people's lives, those positive marks. I believe in karma. I do. I think that that's going to come back to us in some way.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah, I
also
do too.
believe that it feels really
It
good,
just
and
feels good.
I
It
want to
just
go
feels really
home
good.
and share what happened in my day with a bunch of positive things. I want to go back to one other thing you said earlier
Sure.
that I just this reminded me of is that fear side of it, right? Fear starts to go away when you feel gratitude, right? Gratitude is the great fear antidote. And so,
True.
like, when you're building this kind of an experience with your customers and you're building this kind of momentum in your business, and with that, if you can stop and be grateful for those things and remember those positive things, the fear melts away. The fear melts
True.
away.
How
And
true.
so, as you start to build your business and as people, start to, grab their franchise and start working with you guys, you know, the fears that come in are natural, but the rewards and the gratitude and celebrating the wins start to actually build that confidence faster, and they start to really help. And so, like, one of the things that I do with all my clients is we focus on accomplishments and gratitude, because as
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial people, it happens and we don't celebrate it. We forget it's like we're on to the next thing. We're on to the
Right.
next thing. We're
Yeah.
on to the next thing.
And
And
why
we
do we as humans focus on the bad too? I mean, we need to take those moments.
it's because of our brains, right? Our brains are programmed for fight or flight. So they're always looking for the to keep us safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like with a little bit of practice, we can start to train our brain to find the positives, and that changes the game for all of us.
It does.
Like there's this amazing quote that I've shared with you before, and I love it. It's Napoleon Hill: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve.
Yep.
And so when you start filling your mind with the success stories and the positive things, and you have like a great mentor and model like you have, on the cover of the book, I put it on the book cover. I couldn't help myself, right? And it changes the game. And
Yeah,
so
it does.
I want anyone listening to this, like lean into that, because it's a powerful, powerful tool that will help you on bad days. It will help you on good days and all the days in between.
So
So
good.
yeah, it's just an amazing tool.
It is. And I know you and I could talk all day long. We have so much in common, and we enjoy talking about business, and these subjects are very passionate, but I appreciate you taking some of your time today just to share with
Thank
listeners some of the things we've talked about. I mean, anybody listening, I got to tell you, if you had a JV basketball team and you were able to get Larry Bird or Michael Jordan there to do the coaching, that's what we have here today with Jason Friedman. Just
Thank you, my
an
friend.
amazing coach. And thank you so much for the time and effort that you've put into helping us and coaching us, and for your time today. I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Couldn't be more proud of you, and this has been awesome.
Thank you.